Hello, and thank you for watching this March 13th Ag Forecast, brought to you by Agrible, the makers of Morning Farm Report. My name is Eric Snodgrass, and I'm a senior atmospheric scientist and co-founder of Agrible. Well, what a difference a few days make. For the last month, we were all talking about the record heat, and now winter has come back with a vengeance. This map is the All Hazards map for Monday, March 13th by weather.gov, and there are winter storm watches and warnings from the Dakotas all the way to the Northeast. For the setup of this cold snap and all the snow that we're expecting, let me take you back to early last week on March 7th. You see, this bitterly cold air is staged here in western Canada and Alaska. Well, at the end of last week, the flow in the jet stream finally helped transport some of this Arctic air across the Canadian prairies and into the northern states and eventually into the Northeast. That cold air slid south on a 1,050 plus millibar high pressure system, which for those of you who don't speak in these terms, this is a high pressure system that is extremely strong. Well, fast forward to Sunday night, March 12th, and here we have the second system of the last week to bring snow to the central United States. A low-pressure system was passing through Iowa late on Sunday night, drawing enough moisture out ahead of it to produce a large swath of light to moderate snow. Now, before I show you where this is going and what snowfall totals will look like when it's all said and done, I want you to see this. Here's a radar animation from late Sunday night on March 12th. Notice how the echoes seem to form like a donut shape around the radar, which is located here in Lincoln, Illinois. All of these echoes here are ground clutter from non-meteorological targets, including some windmills, which you can see right in through here. But what I want you to understand is why there is a donut shape to the radar echoes. What we're seeing is called virga. Virga is precipitation that falls and evaporates or sublimates before it hits the ground. It's caused when clouds produce precipitation that falls into a dry layer near the ground. You can see over this whole area, there's a cloud field that is snowing. But the air near the surface is too dry for that snow to survive the trip all the way to the ground, so it sublimates. The evidence is in the hole seen around the Lincoln radar. Now, close to the radar, the beam is very low to the ground, but as you get further away from the radar, the beam travels up higher and higher into the atmosphere. So near the radar, we aren't seeing snow echoes because the snow is sublimated and therefore doesn't fall far enough to reach the beam. But farther away, the beam is high enough in the sky that it is hitting the snow. But the bigger story here is that this drier air will limit the snowfall totals. So speaking of those snowfall totals, here are a couple of the projections of the snow depth by a few different models on Sunday evening through early Tuesday morning. The GFS model has 1 to 3 inches widespread throughout a large section of the Corn Belt, with the highest amounts near the Quad Cities into Iowa. Zooming in on the NAM model output, we can see a similar pattern here, with 2 to 3 inches spread across most of Iowa and the northern half of Illinois. Now, it is going to be windy at times, but the wind should generally stay under about 20 miles an hour for most. But I do want you to see this. Here are the winds early on Tuesday morning after the snow has passed the Corn Belt and is making its way toward the northeast. See these winds that are running parallel to the long axis of Lake Michigan? These winds will promote the development of a lake effect snow band, which could actually increase the snowfall totals on Tuesday for parts of Illinois and parts of Indiana. Well, here's what the models are projecting for that lake effect snow band and how it'll look on Tuesday. And several of those fields south of Chicago could get an extra helping of snow from this lake enhancement. Now, since this video is focused on ag weather primarily in the central United States, I'll spare you the details of the brewing nor'easter that this system is going to produce as it moves out of the Midwest into the Northeast on Tuesday. So here are my only comments. If you're traveling by air anywhere in the United States on Tuesday, this system will likely cause major travel headaches. You see, here are the snowfall totals in inches by late Wednesday night. Disrupting air travel in the Northeast disrupts air travel for the whole country. So how long does this colder air hang around? Well, the upper level flow pattern in the jet stream maintains a deeper trough for most of the week across the eastern half of the country. Animating here, though, is the surface air temperature anomalies, which are differences from normal through Friday. Now, it's not until the end of the week that the warmer air begins to arrive back in the central United States. So this means that most of the eastern half of the country is going to remain cold through the end of this week. But I want to take a little bit bigger picture look at how the weather's playing out for a moment in ag. You see, after last week's very active fire weather, which we covered in our midweek update, it's important to look once again at the latest U.S. drought monitor map. While the drought is currently not now covering much of the primary Corn Belt, an abnormally dry winter in Missouri and southern Illinois needs to be watched closely in the coming months. Now, more pressing is the presence of drought in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Colorado in the Wheat Belt. In addition to the dry conditions and the fires, which will continue to be a risk, this area will be susceptible to a frost in late March and early April too. First, last spring was very, very wet across this area, producing those huge yields we saw in 2016. But it also produced a lot of vegetation for 2016 that is now serving as the fuel for the fires that have formed during this dry winter. But the second big idea is this: March and April are poised to take us on a wild ride with temperatures and precipitation. Looking at these maps, though, this is the first week of April. Both the long-range U.S. and European models have a cool bias for this part of the Corn Belt and Wheat Belt to start next month. Now, even though these are really long-range projections, what we see here is some agreement in these models, and what you should take away from this is that we should expect a highly volatile weather pattern through the beginning of April. But I would like to point out that our long-range guidance is favoring above-average temperatures for May and June for most of the Corn Belt. Now, we'll keep you updated on that in our longer-range forecasts each week as we approach planting. With that, I'll wrap up this forecast. As always, we at Agrible will bring you the latest and best weather forecast information through our morning farm report so that you can efficiently plan your operations. We thank you for your attention. We hope you look forward to our next ag weather forecast. Thank you.